The information provided in this podcast is alleged and based on our understanding and research at the time of recording. We make every effort to ensure the accuracy of the information presented, but we cannot guarantee that all data is entirely accurate or complete. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of the hosts and contributors. Previously on e-LIES-abeth.
And then bam, she's married to Andrew. And I was like, where did this guy come from?
Andrew received a final eviction notice, granted effective immediately. Elizabeth shared devastating news. She had cancer. It wasn't long before a GoFundMe was launched.
We are all #CormierStrong, and we will make this fight. We love Elizabeth.
I thought, I was losing one of my best friends of my cousin.
Andrew felt like everything was slipping. His business, his home, his stability, and still no settlements. There was even a sudden new medical emergency that she told Andrew she needed to have a procedure on her spine for. But Andrew said she didn't seem like somebody who had just had a procedure. He needed answers, and boy did he get them. The computer sitting in front of him was just about to expose every lie she ever told him. The next day, Andrew called the facility, introduced himself as Elizabeth's husband, and asked if she needed follow-up antibiotics or care. They had no record of her. That's when Andrew started going through old emails, and what he found exposed lies he could have never been prepared for. Elizabeth had been doctoring emails from her OBGYN appointments to make it look like they were separate emails coming from different cancer specialists. Andrew could see that she had forwarded herself emails from her baby appointments, photoshopped headers and footers to appear like they were coming from various hospitals and cancer specialists, and then rewrote the bodies of the messages to make them look and sound like they were from her cancer team. She doctored lab results, appointment times, and updates from her oncologists. We're not talking about one email from one doctor. We are talking about multiple treatment centers, hospitals, and different doctors. If someone was truly battling stage 4 lymphoma, you'd have to ask the question, why would you go to these lengths? Andrew didn't have the answers, and at this moment in time, he decided not to ask for any from Elizabeth. He was determined to find out for himself and kept the information he found close to his chest for the time being. By July 2021, Elizabeth's lifestyle didn't exactly scream stage 4 cancer patient either. Andrew says her partying and traveling had ramped up big time. Trips, nights out, a social calendar that never slowed down. It was also around this time that she told Andrew she'd found them a new house. He wasn't thrilled. It would be their 7th move in just 3 years. But they were living with Elizabeth's grandparents still, and she had a pitch. She told him that she told the property manager she was a single mom, and according to her, that qualified her for some kind of single mother grant. The house, originally $4,000 a month, was now only going to cost them $900. Too good to be true? Andrew thought so.
I just asked the woman for the full. I also asked why it is just $900.
The full?
The full contract, sorry. She said SunTrust supported my financial documents as if I was a single mother.
Sounds about right.
I think I'm going to do internet and then live stream cable. Is that fine? Trying to communicate. It's only $65 a month. I'm on the line with them.
Whatever you want to do. Liz, I don't have anything to say. You want me out of the loop, so I don't know why you are asking me. You made it clear it's your house.
I want you to just give me the opportunity to do right by us. And this. So please just be glad. This is a nice home, and we will love it. So please, I have done so many things to be who you want me to be. So please, decide to leave where you don't come, or be nicer and happier. It's a choice.
Liz, your logic on this makes no sense. You have so many things you keep from me or hide from me, it's impossible to know what's going on.
I'm not keeping anything from you whatsoever. And I don't care anymore if you believe me. I used to try every single day to get you to believe me, but I'm not anymore. I'm really not anymore.
How did you get this place in short notice?
Because it was sitting there and they allowed me to get it.
The move ended up happening anyways, and once they were in the new place, things continued to look up.
So it is July of 2021, and we have now moved for the 7th time into a house. It's actually one of the nicer houses I would say we probably have been in. We got in on some kind of weird program situation that still doesn't make sense to me, but it's what I am told. And again, I questioned it a lot of different ways. I won't say it was answered, satisfactory, but, I got some answers. And then as far as the money, where she came up with the money, that was still a mystery to me. But it was paid. So what are you to do? Stay with the grandparents while she moves there? I don't know. I don't know. At that point in my life, I was down bad, and, it seemed like in my best interest to go ahead and move and try and figure out my life as best I could day by day. So August is approaching, and obviously August is when school starts. So my wife mentioned to me that she was feeling up to it, and she wanted to get back into teaching. So she let me know that she applied for I think it was assistant principal at a special needs school. I said, yeah, if you feel up to that, who am I to stop you? So I supported her, and she had the interview, and she got the job. This job was described to me as a hybrid job. Sometimes she would have to go to the school and, do stuff at the school, admin work, be with the students, I don't know. But sometimes she'd have to go to the school, and then other times she would work from home, meetings and things. I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing the two. But either way, it was presented and told to me that it was a hybrid position with a certain amount of days at the school and a certain amount of days would be done at home. Obviously, I said, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. The next logical conversation that we had was, what about the kids? Obviously the two oldest kids are in school, so not too much of an issue there. But our two youngest are not in school. Our youngest are newborn, essentially, at this time, already on her, second move in her first year of life, and she is not in school, obviously. And then our oldest together is, not in school either. So again, the next conversation was, what about the kids? So she had mentioned that she could talk to Madison. I don't know if you remember Madison, but Madison was our sitter when we moved in 2019 to the townhouse. This was the move where I didn't really want to move. She said she made the payment, and then the check didn't clear, and I had to come up with the money. But either way, when we moved into that house pre-2020, right before 2020, Madison was our sitter, and she was our sitter as needed, if you will, over 2020 and things like that. But long story short, she said she could talk to Madison. I said, yeah, if that'd be great.
Elizabeth landed a new job, an assistant principal at a local special needs school, she said. The income she claimed was great. Suddenly, her mom was flying in often. They'd go on designer bag shopping sprees, impromptu girls' trips to Vegas and Nashville. They even had season tickets to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When Andrew had questions about who was paying for everything, Elizabeth told him her mom was footing the bill. But he kept finding receipts for these purchases in places like her car and their closet. And we're talking big purchases. Thousands and thousands. One trip to Louis Vuitton, $19,908.75. Let's not forget, this is a woman allegedly undergoing cancer treatments, raising 4 kids, because remember, she doesn't just have the two daughters from her marriage with Andrew. She has a son and daughter from a previous relationship. Children Andrew claims he was also left to care for on many of the late nights Elizabeth had out. She's also now working full-time as an assistant principal, taking up even more of her time. And while that would be overwhelming enough for a healthy wife and mother of 4, Elizabeth started taking more on her plate and launching side hustles. First, an Etsy store selling children's clothes called Lulu's Children, which was shut down pretty quickly after people reported never receiving their orders.
Hello, this is Etsy's Trust and Safety Team. We're writing to let you know that after careful review, your account has been permanently suspended for violating Etsy's terms of use. Our policies help keep our marketplace a safe and special destination for unique and creative goods. If you think this is a mistake, you may be able to file an appeal with Etsy.
Then came Lulu's Coffee and Wine Bar, a project Andrew didn't support her doing with everything else going on, but she was determined. She did a photo shoot for it, a social media announcement, and signed a 5-year lease.
One of my biggest dreams has always been to open a coffee shop. And now I'm turning those dreams into a reality. There are so many steps to this, and I have a long way to go, but I'm soaking in every minute of this. I have such a great team behind me. Thank you to my family and friends for supporting my dream. Thank you to this person for not only finding the perfect space, but for being the best friend ever. Thank you to this other person for doing everything I need you to do to help support me in this. Clearwater photographer, thank you for the random photo shoots and being such a great hype girl. But most importantly, thank you to my favorite person, my nanny. You have put in so many extra hours while I've been turning this into a reality. And I'm so thankful to have someone I can trust with my babies every single day. We have a long road ahead, but we are ready. Hashtag Lulus.
It wasn't long after her announcement. The dream had died before ever breaking ground. She claimed she voided the contract a month after signing.
And I'm ordering pizza for dinner.
When are you going to be here?
I just left, and I'm going to be back in about an hour.
Okay.
Just letting you know, I voided my lease today. I decided for my kids, I would wait till later in life.
Despite claiming she was putting her dreams on hold for her children, she seemed busier and absent than ever. Almost every night, Andrew said that there was something she had to do. From planning and attending school conferences in Orlando to last-minute trips to Vegas and Nashville for shopping sprees and concerts, it became clear she was never home. And when she was, Andrew felt she wasn't present. Although he was feeling disconnected and disappointed in his relationship, he was starting to feel a glimmer of hope. He'd been waiting years for settlements tied to the mysterious lease and equipment sales debacles. And then it finally happened. A paralegal emailed him that funds were being released, and shortly after, a wire transfer for partial payment hit Andrew's account. This was the most promising action to date, but as we have come to learn, when one issue seems to be getting resolved, a trail of questions usually follows. Everything in Andrew told him to go to his bank and check the source of the funds, and when he did, the banker said it came from an Elizabeth Teckenbrock, his wife. On cue, she had an explanation. The funds were accidentally sent to her, and she transferred them to him. From there, things only got stranger. It's obvious to all of us at this point that lawyer Lauren was incompetent, to say the least. It's a sentiment Andrew clearly experienced and shared firsthand. He had finally put his foot down and told Elizabeth if he couldn't meet her face-to-face to find out what the heck was going on, he was hiring his own attorney. Liz agreed to arrange a meeting, but what do you know it? Before the deadline, there was all of a sudden no need. Lauren had done some attorney shuffling, if you will, and passed Andrew's case to a sister firm. Next thing he knows, he's corresponding with a whole team. And unlike Lauren, whose emails came from a Gmail account, Andrew was introduced to paralegals and lawyers with emails associated to the firm. It felt more comforting. In those early days of communication, both Liz and Andrew were CC'd on the correspondence, and it all seemed promising and legit until Andrew asked a question to the paralegal about some documents he needed for his accountant, and got a reply from Elizabeth's email. He replied confused. Moments later, another message came through, this time from the paralegal's actual email address, with nearly the exact same wording.
So my accountant is asking for paperwork for some loans.
Please wait until just tomorrow morning to do that. The file date says tomorrow.
What did you find out?
It seemed sloppy, too sloppy. So Andrew started digging, back through emails, old messages, archived drafts, and what he found was the bomb he'd been waiting for. It was one of those moments where everything clicked. Andrew was on his computer, the one Elizabeth had borrowed back in 2020 to set up her Etsy store, and that's when he saw it. Still logged into her old email, he noticed a receipt from Google Suite, Google's premium business service that lets you create custom email addresses. And this one was registered to Elizabeth. Attached to that account were email addresses for the law firm Andrew had been corresponding with. Everybody was Elizabeth. Let's take stock for a second. Elizabeth was allegedly fighting cancer, raising 4 kids, working as an assistant principal, starting a business, running an Etsy shop, and now possibly impersonating an entire law firm. Andrew didn't confront her, though. Not yet. He held on to it and wanted more answers. Around this time, Elizabeth made a bold announcement. She was quitting her job to focus full-time on launching Lulu's Coffee and Wine Bar. I'm sure you already guessed it, but she never actually was an assistant principal, and Lulu's never ended up breaking ground. But that's a whole $100,000 debacle of its own that will have its moment in due time. For now, Andrew was done relying on hopes and half-truths, and in late 2021, he hired a private investigator. He gave the PI everything: every email, every phone number, every Google Suite receipt tied to Lauren, Attorney P, Mrs. S, the whole network. He also wanted to finally get clarity on Jeff, the guy who was supposedly storing and selling his medical equipment. That money was still missing. So on October 21st, 2021, instead of searching Jeff's name in his phone, Andrew went to Jeff's website and typed in the number listed. He did still have the number saved, but it didn't come up under the name Jeff. The name that popped up was Uncle Tony. Andrew doesn't have an Uncle Tony, so that led him to believe someone went on his phone and saved Jeff's number under somebody who he would have never searched for. When he opened up the message thread under Jeff's real number, there was nothing. The entire chat history was gone. Andrew reached out through email basically saying, "Hey, do you remember me? You stored my equipment, sold a few pieces, still waiting on those 2 checks." The response he got back from real Jeff was not happy. Andrew said it was something along the lines of, "F you, I don't know what you're talking about." Andrew was furious and ready to fight back, so he turned to Elizabeth and asked her to forward any exchange she had with him. Her reaction wasn't one of a supportive wife ready to ride at John for her man. Instead, she exploded and accused Andrew of not believing in her and said she wanted a divorce. Andrew said this was a pattern. Every time he had questions, she'd flip the script and go into victim mode and threaten to leave.
I need a personal trainer, so if I can't pick one, you pick, because I need help. And my therapist today said it's the only way that I'll stay motivated to reach my goals. I have a psychiatrist appointment tomorrow also. I'm changing my life. I'm not letting anyone hold me back.
Okay. I need those emails, Liz. I emailed him and he is saying he never stored anything for me. Interesting reaction from you.
I have to block you on Instagram, my phone, everything. I'm filing the report online now. I'm sorry for everything you think I've done to you. I have to file to remove you from my life. I'm done with this. Goodbye.
This is weird that you're not allowing me to solve this equipment issue. I still have a loan. Liz, you said it, but now you're retracting.
I don't know why in the world you would not think that I thought one of you contacted him. I'm reacting because you're never going to fucking stop, and I'm done with this bullshit in my life.
He reached out to you? Makes sense. You were going crazy. You will feel better the more honest you are. I know it's been a lot of lies. We don't have to live like this anymore. We can truly move on.
I'm sick, and I can't talk about this. Ignoring me again.
No, I'm finishing up patience.
It was hours after this exchange that Elizabeth called Andrew. It didn't have anything to do with the divorce, though. She said that she was at the hospital having an emergency appendix surgery. Despite everything, the accusations, the emotional whiplash, Andrew offered to go and be there with her, but Elizabeth told him no and to stay home with the kids. The next call came from Elizabeth's mom. Elizabeth was out of surgery, everything went well, and she was recovering. The next morning when Andrew offered to pick her up, she said it wasn't necessary. She'd arrived home not long after, saying Chris had given her a ride. You know, baby daddy number 2, tartan Pinterest wedding dreams, Chris. Andrew says when he saw her, things didn't really add up. There was no bandages, no hospital bracelet, no discharge papers, no medication, no signs of surgery at all. He said she looked more like she'd just come home from a night out. She laid down to rest, and a short while later, a Chick-fil-A order showed up at the door, a gift from Lindsay, her realtor friend. Andrew brought it to her, and without thinking, made a quiet comment.
Kind of weird that she didn't get anything for the kids.
He says he wasn't trying to start a fight, just pointing out something that didn't sit right. He even explained later that in his family, you don't eat in front of others without offering to share. But according to Andrew, Elizabeth snapped. She got out of bed, stormed over, and slapped the bag of food and milkshake from his hand, sending it flying. This became known as Milkshake Gate online, and depending on who's telling the story, the versions are quite different. Andrew alleges that after she sent the food flying, he stood frozen for a moment, told her he wasn't cleaning it up, and walked out of the room. He said she slammed the bedroom door and crawled back into bed. Minutes later, he said he did something he'd never done after big explosions up to this point. He turned back around, opened the door, and snapped a picture of the mess, his way of documenting what had just happened. Elizabeth's version was the opposite. She alleged he was the one who threw the food at her.
It's literally delusional that people are questioning because the blanket is on the milkshake that I, in fact, made this mess myself. But I must have just moved the corner of that blanket on the milkshake. If you see the bag that's ripped open at the bottom of the bed and all of the food has now fallen because he threw the milkshake and the bag at me in the bed, which then got everywhere, all over the floor. The milkshake is all over the bed, in the sheets, as I explained, in it, on my legs, underneath the blanket, because yes, I moved and the blanket went over there. You are actually telling me that you guys are defending. I feel so dumb that I'm trying to reason with people that would defend any reason whatsoever that someone had surgery a day later, 3 days later, 5 days later, and is in bed in pain and throws food at them. I also just read a comment saying she's lying because you wouldn't be able to eat chicken nuggets after you had surgery. You'd be on like an all liquid diet. First of all, even if I couldn't eat chicken nuggets, did you guys miss the point where my friend ordered this food for me and had it delivered because I just had surgery and she was trying to do something nice for me and she couldn't come over because I tested positive for COVID? I literally can't wrap my head around the fact that you guys are this fucking delusional about him. Like this doctor on the internet that's showing his ass every fucking day. Do you not see this? I'm in bed. So let me get this straight, okay? The food is thrown clearly this way, right? I'm no like forensic scientist over here, but like it's clear as day which way the food is thrown, right? It's not thrown this way. So I got up, I moved the playpen, I got up, I went to the side, I threw the food, I got back in the bed, covered myself up, and scooted the playpen back over, and I did all of this. And then he then came in and took a picture of me. Yeah. So not only did he throw this mess, but then he decided to take a picture to be humiliating. I don't understand. I literally don't understand the logic behind your guys' comments and mess. But like I said in many other videos, and I will say it again and again and again, I'm not even angry at you. And like happy for you that you've never experienced some monster of a human being doing this type of shit to you. Because if you did, you would not be leaving these delusional comments. There's no way. So congratulations that you never had someone do these type of things to you. And I hope that you never do. But karma is a bitch. That I do know. I'm really glad he posted this picture, but at the same time, I am so sad looking at myself here. I am so sad that I allowed this type of man into my life on a daily basis. I was pathetic. That's the difference between him and I now, is I am not pathetic anymore. I may have been, but I am certainly not now. And he hasn't grown, he's gotten worse.
Again, the day after she claims that she had appendix surgery because her appendix burst. Again, no proof that she ever had a procedure. And she was angry that
Okay, I literally promised myself that I was not even going to respond, but I was able to pull my medical records really quickly. And I know that I don't have to do this. I know that, but I'm just baffled. So I guess in my podcast, I got the fact that it was a weekday and not a week. It was a weekend wrong. But I was saying by the time I got home and settled, my mom had already been gone. It was like the weekend. I don't know exactly the scenario of my mom being in town and when on my like surgery. All I know is that my husband was not there for me. And then when I got home, he proceeded to abuse me after having surgery, throwing things at me as well. So I'm going to show you how he's saying, he even says in his own video, you can go look at it, right? That I got home from having surgery and he accused me of never having the surgery and still says that I did not have this surgery. So 1 second. Like imagine having surgery and coming home and your husband's like, you didn't fucking have it. Get up, do things, whatever else, take care of the kids, whatever else, even though I had just literally had surgery. So hold on. Okay, here's why I tested positive for COVID October 20th, which I stated is why like no one could be there with me. Okay, so this is my test. Bingo. I pulled my medical records. I know that he says that he has all my medical records. He's a professional, right? He's done all of that stuff. October 20th, 2021. That's me, Elizabeth Teckenbrock. So yet again, we're in this vicious cycle of him saying all these crazy things about me, but trying to help his own situation that he didn't abuse me. But yeah, I had appendix surgery. Oh, October 25th, 2021. This is like one of the scars, like a few days later, 5 days later after they did it. All he did is just prove that he's my husband and this is how he treated me during our marriage. I didn't do that myself. He did.
Regardless of who was right, it was another moment that ended up getting swept under the rug, and they continued to coexist together. Just a week after this alleged appendix surgery, Andrew said Elizabeth was hitting the Halloween circuit, party hopping with friends out till 2 a.m. while he stayed at home with the kids. Meanwhile, he was getting serious with collecting his debts. He hired an attorney to reach out to Jeff on his behalf in hopes of getting some real answers. And that's when the PI's final report also came in. It was worse than he thought. Out of the 10 to 12 phone numbers Andrew had passed along, thinking they belonged to lawyers, paralegals, building managers, almost none of them were legit. Most were tied to strangers who had been assigned the new number recently, and some were now inactive. The PI even tracked down photos of the people linked to the phone numbers and asked Andrew, "Do you know any of them?" He didn't. When he asked Elizabeth to explain, she pivoted and told him he didn't care about her being sick. Classic deflection, classic Liz. At that point, the PI felt confident. Lawyer Lauren was never, ever real. Elizabeth Teckenbrock had likely fabricated this persona, along with the firm, for 3 years. Andrew finally had confirmation. But what he didn't have was a motive. Around this time, Andrew circled back to the root of it all, the 2018 lease issue. He told the PI everything about Mr. Khan, the man he'd originally signed that 3-year contract with for his office. Remember, on July 10th, 2018, they got news the building was being sold. That same day, Mr. Khan was rushed to the ER with a head injury. Within weeks, while Mr. Khan was in a nursing home, documents were signed, a quitclaim deed, a will, a property transfer, all in the presence of Mrs. S., her attorney, and a witness named Adam. It took some work, but the PI tracked down Adam, who didn't want to talk, but reluctantly confirmed he remembered the situation and that he had signed as a witness, but didn't provide more details than that. Odd. When the PI called Attorney P's law firm and asked if Mr. Khan had ever been a client, he hadn't. He tried to look into the ambulance transport records from that day, but they were sealed. The PI suggested Andrew try himself, and he was able to actually get pickup and drop-off times. Mr. Khan had been picked up less than an hour after that text went out to the tenants saying the building would be sold. The deeper they went, the murkier it got. At every turn, Andrew and the PI were stonewalled. The PI eventually told him, "You need to get an attorney. There's more going on here than I can legally uncover." As if all of that weren't enough, Andrew's attorney finally got a response from Jeff, the actual Jeff. The response rocked him. It turns out that in 2019, Elizabeth had reached out to Jeff, pretending to be Andrew, and sold the medical equipment behind his back. So a year later, in 2020, when Andrew thought he was initiating the sale, it had already happened, a full year earlier.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Cormier, Andrew Cormier's wife. He had been trying to get in touch but wasn't getting a response. He wanted me to try to reach out. He didn't really hear anything else about opening the other practice. And also, he wants to know if you want to buy any of those tables and slit lamp you have. You can also contact me at 55555 fake phone number. Thank you. Elizabeth Cormier. Sent from iPhone. It actually isn't about the price. It's about the time. Can we meet to get it? Sent from iPhone.
Jeff, thinking he was dealing with Andrew, had made the check payable to Elizabeth as per who he thought was Andrew's request. Andrew says he doesn't know what happened to that money. He just knows he didn't get the check. And I think it's important to know that this equipment is not cheap. For example, a slit lamp alone can range from $6,000 to over $10,000. We searched for Hughes visual field analyzers, these things that are very common in every ophthalmology office, and most were going for around $7,000 US. These are just examples of 2 of the many pieces of expensive equipment you would need to run an office. Remember, Andrew had not bought all of this outright. He had taken out loans for all of this equipment and planned to use the sale with Jeff to repay some of the debt. Now the money was just gone, and he was still holding the bag. By December, Andrew had answers, but no resolution. But he stayed quiet, calculated and strategic in order to get them. That same week, Elizabeth threw a $6,500 Christmas party at their house. Andrew said he knew nothing about it until he walked in. All of a sudden, he sees a bouncy castle, outdoor movie projector, the works. He later found out that some of the vendors didn't even get paid. This is something several people have said Elizabeth does. Hosts lavish events, but later, there'll be allegations from people who were hired for the event not ever getting money.
She was fine in the beginning, and she did all these lavish things, and she would invite people, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. She's, texting me on a flight, and she's like, oh my God, come to, it was either their 13 Ugly Men's Halloween party, or one of those big Halloween parties they throw here. And she's like texting me to come. She has a table. So I'm like, okay, cool. So that I came and we had a good time, whatever. Well, come to find out, a couple weeks later, I heard that she didn't pay for the tables. They were like still looking. She left before the people came to pay, to collect payment. And I had heard from other people that she was a scammer. And I was like, well, she seems really nice. Looked up all the stuff and I was like, well, she doesn't seem like someone that would do this. So I kind of turned a blind eye to it.
By Christmas, the resentment was thick. Elizabeth was out every night and Andrew was exhausted. Christmas dinner would be the last time they'd be together as a family. Andrew calls it the Last Supper. The next night, Elizabeth said she needed to make a Target run. While she got ready, she chatted with Andrew, asking his opinion about a wine bar. Was it a good first date spot? What makes a good first date? She said she was asking for her friend Erin, who was going out on a first date. But Andrew believes that a TikTok get ready with me she made a while later suggested it was a date she was going on, which ended up being what she refers to as the best first date she's ever been on. According to Andrew, the person she's talking about in the video is the one she left her family for, someone he calls Dave. That night, Andrew said she disappeared for hours. Usually when she was out, she would have had some sort of contact, but this night her phone was off, or Andrew was blocked, and there was no contact until she got home around 3 or 4 a.m. Andrew was still up and confronted her. She said she was with her friend Erin, who also ended up coming to the house, and Andrew said if she was done with the marriage, she was welcome to leave. According to Andrew, Elizabeth said she was leaving him and the kids, who were asleep in their beds, and when Andrew refused to let her go into their rooms and wake them up, she called the police. Police arrived and interviewed them individually. The synopsis of the statements from that night will be a stark difference from the narrative Elizabeth would later tell people when detailing her marriage and the type of man Andrew is.
On 12/28/21 at 20:39 hours, a domestic-related disturbance occurred between Elizabeth Teckenbrock and Andrew Cormier. I was dispatched to the above location in response to a domestic call. Dispatch advised that the complainant, E.T., had called advising that she and her husband, A.C., were in a disagreement and that she was wishing to speak to the police about her options. I responded to the above location and met with E.T., who was waiting outside the home. E.T. advised that she was having marital issues with her husband, A.C., with whom she has been married since 2018 and has 2 children with. She advised both have been seeking legal assistance and involved attorneys, and that she does not feel, given the manipulation used and the way that A.C. speaks to her, that her children should be around him. E.T. advised that she is civilly pursuing this in a civil family court, but based on conversations that occurred with A.C. on this night, she felt as though she needed to leave with her children. E.T. noted multiple times that A.C. had not battered or threatened her or the children in any way and that no crime had occurred. We responded inside the residence with E.T. so that she could collect her children and items for them. Upon entering the home, E.T. was able to escort her children, Child B, Child C, and Child R, outside of the home. Upon attempting to remove the last and the youngest child, S, A.C. opened the rear bedroom door and became aware of what was going on. A.C. became highly upset and advised that it was not within her rights to take his children. I notified A.C. multiple times that both parents had the rights to the children and that the police would not get involved in a custody dispute and that he would also need to handle this through the court system. A.C. understood that due to police not being able to interfere with A.T. taking her children, that we were also not be able to interfere with him keeping his children. A.C. then made his way to the bedroom of S and blocked the doorway with his body, refusing to allow E.T. to leave with S. A.C. then went on to explain that E.T. is only taking the children out of spite because she knows she is about to face legal trouble from A.C. after he had hired private investigators to conduct an investigation on E.T. A.C. advised E.T. that she could leave with the other 3 children who were already out in the car, but he would not allow her to take S. A.C. refused to leave the residence and advised E.T. multiple times that he was staying with S and that she could leave with the other 3 children or return inside to stay with him and all 4 children. E.T. did not wish to leave the residence without taking all 4 of her children and decided to return the other children inside the residence. E.T. made arrangements to have Her other children, B and C, with whom she did not have in common with AC, leave with another subject. ET then elected to stay in the home with AC, R, and S until she could seek legal assistance from the court system in the morning. At the request of AC, I provided him with the report number for his attorney. Corporal Nugent and I cleared the area without further issue. No crime was alleged by any party at any point.
Andrew says the police being called was the point of no going back. Wednesday, December 29th, the day after the police were called, Elizabeth went to Andrew's office to talk about the night before and said she needed time to reflect and needed to go to Tampa to spend the night at a hotel. The next night turned into another. This time she said her mom was going to come and stay the night with her there. The one night to reflect turned into 4 nights and being away for New Year's, despite telling Andrew all of New Year's Eve that she was going to be home to celebrate with the kids. She didn't come home until January 2nd, spent the night on the couch, and the next day she sent a text to Andrew saying she was going to a mental health treatment center in Tampa. Something that has been used as an excuse many times, and one we are seeing playing out right now in real time.
You're not controlling me anymore.
Controlling? So where are you going?
To therapy.
When will you be home? I don't know how you can walk into a facility.
Excuse me? What are you talking about?
I'm trying to figure out where you are and what's going on. You walking into a facility?
At a therapist.
Why all caps?
When are you done golfing? I'll be done in 30 minutes, and we need to talk.
Been asking for that all week. I'm taking the kids to the park. Where are you really?
I wanted to remind listeners at this time that something else that continues to play out online is Elizabeth's allegations and insinuations that Andrew was abusive. Obviously, I cannot definitively give you an answer for that. None of us know what happened behind closed doors. What I will say is, having personally been in a highly emotional, physical, and severely controlling relationship, like Liz implies she experienced with Andrew, we had 2 very different experiences. There were no shopping sprees or control of my own money, trips alone with my family, nights out with my friends at all hours of the night, almost every night, on my own, while he watched my children from another relationship, never happened. Nor is her experience similar to other DV survivors who luckily lived to tell their story. I personally feel there's a huge difference between a spouse wondering when you're going to be home, asking where you're getting money to fund a lavish lifestyle, or questioning your lies and someone who is abusive and controlling. We're going to get into this even further in future episodes, but I wanted you to have that in your thoughts and give you this example of the type of response Elizabeth gives Andrew when he has questions for why she was never home.
There you go. She's even commenting back and forth with me on Instagram now.
No, Liz, you will. When people see you are out like this, it will be a factor that you will regret. I'm here with our kids. You are not.
You are the most selfish piece of shit I've ever met in my life. I hate you.
Maybe I need to go out for 6-hour dinners.
Don't fucking text me again. I don't give a shit what you say. I don't care if you think I was on a date. I don't care if you think I was fucking sitting on the side of the road for 5 hours. I don't care anymore. What you say or what you accuse me of, you were dead ass wrong. And go ahead and think you're not. I don't care. I will prove it to whoever the fuck I need to. You're worthless piece of crap for a husband, and you've never done a damn thing to make me feel good.
All right, picking back up at the extremely last minute and same day appointment to a therapist. A couple hours pass and Elizabeth calls Andrew saying she just got out of the session, and the therapist said they each needed to write down what they could work on for the relationship and suggested Elizabeth spend another night away while they do that. That night turned into over a week. She said she was staying with her mom who came to visit. And when Andrew asked if she wanted to see the kids, she said that they would try, but had lots on their plate, lots of meetings with potential investors for the revival of the coffee bar dream. Then, after her mom left and she's set to come back home to be there for the kids, she urgently needs to go back to Indiana because she claimed a friend of hers died from a Benadryl overdose. She was supposed to be back that Saturday for Andrew to take her oldest, his stepson, to watch the last Buccaneers game of the season against the Panthers, which happened to be his favorite team. Due to the funeral being so emotional, she had to switch the flight to Sunday, meaning she would not be home in time for Andrew to take her son to the game, and they missed it, since no one was there to watch the other children. Spoiler alert, there were no meetings with her mom. It was a male friend who came to visit her that she was spending time with. There was no funeral, She went to St. Augustine with another man. The best first date guy. You know, the one she got tips for a good first date from her husband for. And even though Andrew and her son didn't get to use the tickets for the final game of the season, they didn't actually go to waste. Elizabeth took best first date guy. I will say, if a woman is taking space from her marriage and clearly communicating that, there isn't anything, I guess, inherently wrong with spending time with friends. However, there is an issue with abandoning your parental responsibilities for weeks at a time. I also think it's really important to know that there were many times that Elizabeth provided false hope to Andrew. She would show brief periods of saying everything he wanted to hear, seemingly to keep him at arm's reach, and then use any excuse to flip the switch.
I know that at the end of the day, there is no one who understands me like you. No one I could ever love like you. I'm coming home tonight before the trip. I want to lay with you and bond for real.
Sounds great. So why wouldn't you watch the girls until I got off work?
I could. I'm on my way home. Do you think that today I could use your card to do some shopping for the house? I want to replace some rugs and some decor and get some groceries. It doesn't need to be an argument. Just asking. I haven't asked you for anything since we've been living here.
We can go together and get that stuff if you want. I'm taking the kids to the park. Do you want to come with us?
Don't you work?
At 11. I have almost 2 hours.
It's really cold, but yes, I will. But we aren't going to go together to shop. You don't have time. I'll buy it myself and take out cash. Thanks anyway. Or can I do a Target order?
This was the weekend he said changed everything, though. After she got back, Andrew found 2 receipts in Elizabeth's car, clear proof she hadn't been where she claimed. One was from a coffee shop in St. Augustine, dated Saturday, when she was supposed to be at a funeral in Indiana. The other was a receipt for a men's Buccaneers jersey purchased that Sunday, the same day Andrew and his stepson were supposed to go to that game. That's when Andrew silently hired a divorce attorney. Nothing really changes at this point in terms of the dynamic that had already been going on. She was out every night, not home for the kids. She'd tell Andrew she was going to be there, then message saying she drank too much or took too many edibles and wouldn't come home. This allowed him to go through the family computer, though, which he hadn't really done before because the mouse was always missing. He later found out she would take it with her. At this point, though, he bought a new one, and once he got into the computer, he found things that weren't even on his radar. Pouring through the emails and legal documents stored, he learned that Elizabeth was named in a lawsuit involving a 2019 Target credit card and a 2020 American Express credit card that a man Andrew had never even heard of co-signed for her on. According to the legal documents, there were over $6,300 charged on these cards that was never paid. Based on what Andrew could see in the documents, this guy took Elizabeth to court, and his lawyer ultimately worked out a payment plan for Elizabeth to pay him back. Andrew hadn't even heard this name before, so his guess is as good as ours as to what type of relationship this man thought he was having with a married woman to co-sign on 2 credit cards. And then there was Todd. Oh, Todd. This is someone Andrew had questions about for some time, but who hasn't been introduced to our story yet because it just would have been way too confusing to keep track of. Todd actually entered the picture very early on into Liz and Andrew's relationship. He was Elizabeth's son's 2nd grade teacher. And early on, Andrew recalls that Elizabeth was in constant communication with teacher Todd. At the time, he didn't think much of it. He chalked it up to hands-on parenting style. But as the school year ended, Elizabeth hired her son's teacher to work as his summer tutor. Again, though, most likely hands-on parenting and teacher style. When the new school year began, Elizabeth's son was once again placed in the same teacher's class. Most likely a coincidence because it's not usually in the teacher's hands who's in their class, though I'm sure they can put in requests. Throughout that year as well, they seemed to be in pretty close contact, and something about it just didn't sit right. But Andrew never knew why, until he was scrolling through that computer and got his answers. Sort of. He found a bunch of correspondence between Liz and Todd that ultimately revealed that on October 25th, 2019, Elizabeth gave that teacher a check for $12,000, and it bounced. Not because of insufficient funds, but because the check itself was fake. It had been fabricated online. We know she's crafty with forging docs already, but Todd didn't. It turns out teacher Todd had lent Elizabeth $12,000 over that summer. For what? We don't know. Further into the series, we will hear from other victims and the stories they were told, and based on those, I'm sure it was something uber dramatic. Whatever it was, Todd obviously felt she needed the money, and based on their correspondence, she was going to pay him back. When that check came back fraudulent, Todd called Liz out. She assured him everything would be figured out and he would have his money right away. but it didn't come. Not until he was sick of months and months of excuses and submitted that check to the state of Florida, and again, an attorney got a payment plan in place. When Andrew's series first started getting traction on TikTok, the internet sleuths did what they do and tracked Todd down. And he ended up posting a video to clear some things up to people online. In my opinion, it sounds more like a hostage video, but you can listen for yourself.
Hi, my name is Todd. I'm the person that supposedly got scammed by Elizabeth, but I did not. Her ex-husband has accused me of things that are not true. He has tagged me in things. He come close to being slanderous, but Liz is a great person, kind heart, big heart, and I was not scammed.
Despite him now saying that he was never scammed, that was not always the sentiment.
Sounds like you did not get texts. No, I don't want you to send a check. You and your grandma have tried several times before. The check always gets lost or the UPS screws it up. No, I don't want Zelle from the same reason. You claim to have sent the money, but the bank always messes it up and it doesn't come through. Unfortunately, I won't be available till next week, so please do not send it or lose it so you can pay it back in person next week. It would be nice to get a loan money back before the 2 years. I've waited way too long and way too many excuses. Thanks. Crack me up. You send me messages of you with the money. You owe me. And then you tell me you can't meet up. You had no problem meeting me when you needed the money. And then you tell me you won't cancel. But I guess semantically you didn't cancel. You just never showed up or responded. Can you make yourself feel like you did not lie? But you did. Can't wait to hear your last excuse of why you did not pay me back. Almost 2 years. I never met someone who has lied so much ever. Of course you're running behind. $300 doesn't make me feel any better.
It was sent back. I'm truly trying my best. Andrew took everything from me. I have given you money every time I can. I have never said, fuck you, and that I'm not paying you. So please understand that I am running a little behind, but I'm going to send you some cash and Cash App right now.
Here's my lawyer. I think you know him. You probably have his phone number because he has yours. By the way, still don't have your lawyer's information. Please send that to me. I can't wait to get in contact with him. Third time, please send me your lawyer's information. You mentioned this and I wanted it. So please do. Send it to me ASAP. Thanks. Well, shit. Didn't think I would have to ask for the fourth time, but I guess I do. Send your lawyer's information to me ASAP. I also need the contact and talk to Andrew. It's his business. That's the text we're written on. I need to talk to him.
Please stop messaging me. My lawyer will call you. I sent you his number already. Good night, Todd.
Looking back on those emails, Andrew came across one that may have given him the answers to the questions he had about Todd much earlier than this moment. He saw an email Todd had sent to his eye clinic to try to book an exam, possibly a ruse to get into the door and let Andrew know what was going on. The answer to that we'll never know because Elizabeth intercepted that and replied as Andrew to decline seeing him.
Hey, Doc. My eyes are itching and becoming blurry at times. Wondering what I can do. Please call or message. Thanks, Todd.
Hello. I have to politely decline to give you an eye exam. I am aware of the current financial situation between you and Elizabeth. I do understand the wrong that she has done by you, but I do not wish to complicate the situation anymore. I would appreciate it if you did not contact me again. I am saying this as politely as possible, so I do hope you respect what I am asking. Thank you, Dr. Andrew Cormier.
You know the saying, rob Peter to pay Paul? It's the classic con play. You pay back the loudest voice using money swiped from someone who hasn't even started asking questions yet. And Todd might feel like he came out on top, but someone else, somewhere, unknowingly picked up the tab and lost everything. On the next episode of e-LIES-abeth.
And I would receive texts saying, I need money for the medical expenses this week, that sort of thing.
That's when you gave her money?
No, she promised to pay me back.
And how much has been taken out?
It's on the neighborhood of 400 to 500,000.
500,000. Wow.
I'm gonna hold him accountable to this entire thing because I want nothing more than to see her in a relationship.